We're all taught that success is a pretty simple equation, right? More hours plus more skills, that equals more results. But if you really look at the people who get these insane, disproportionate outcomes, the founders and creators who seem to just bend reality to their will, you realize they're not just playing the game harder, they're playing a totally different game. And today we're going to break down the 4 counterintuitive rules they live by.
So let me just ask you this straight up. All that constant effort, the long hours, your drive to learn every single new skill, is it actually moving the needle? Or is it just possible that all that hard work is just keeping you stuck in a game you were never meant to win? The most effective people have figured out it's not about the intensity of your effort. It's about the framework you apply it in.
And this slide just lays it out perfectly. The average path is totally linear. You put in 10% more work, you cross your fingers for 10% more results. It's all about accumulation. But the bender's path, that's all about leverage. It's about finding these little pressure points that create massive non-linear outcomes. And that requires a completely different operating system, which starts with a principle that feels, honestly, totally backward.
Okay, this first rule is the bedrock of the entire system, and it's rooted deep in our biology. Instead of trying to win every little transaction, these reality benders, they actually engineer situations where the other person wins first and wins bigger. And look, this isn't just about being nice. It's about understanding the most powerful driver of human cooperation there is.
Now, what's so wild about this is the science behind it. When you feel indebted to someone, fMRI scans literally show it triggers the same parts of your brain as physical pain. It is a literal pain signal, a discomfort that we are biologically wired to get rid of. We just can't rest until we paid that debt back. This is the reciprocity engine that's driven human society for thousands of years, and the most effective people use it as their default setting. The Airbnb story is just the perfect example. So when they were starting out, totally broke and desperate, what they do? They didn't beg for better deals. No. They went to their very first host and gave them something incredibly valuable, professional photography, 100% free. Suddenly, the host listings looked amazing. Their income shot up by 40%. The psychological debt this created was just immense. Those hosts became a volunteer army, recruiting other hosts, evangelizing for the company online. They literally built the foundation of a $100 billion company, all because the founders made them win first.
And listen, this isn't just some one-off story. A Wharton study tracked salespeople over 2 years. The group that started their client relationships by just giving away valuable free insights before they ever even pitched, they ended up earning 68% more than the group that went straight for the sale. The big takeaway here is to ask yourself, what can I give that costs me very little but is hugely valuable to someone else? Because once you start creating that kind of value, you'll find opportunities just flocking to you. And that leads us right to our second rule.
So once you start putting real value out into the world, you're going to find that new doors are opening up everywhere. Which sounds great, right? Well, not so fast. This leads to the second rule, and it's maybe the hardest one to master, because it means you have to start rejecting things that actually seem positive. You see, the silent killer of your greatest work isn't failure. It's the constant distraction of a merely good opportunity.
And Warren Buffett just nails it right here. Most of us, we think success is about addition. New projects, new skills, new connections. But at the highest levels, success is all about subtraction. It's about protecting your focus with a ruthless, almost brutal intensity. Because every good thing you say yes to is a silent no to the one thing that could have been truly exceptional. Just think of your capacity for true excellence as a finite resource, like this chart shows. Every single time you say yes to a good side project, a decent collaboration, or another networking event, you're just slicing off a piece of the energy that really should be going to your one great thing. You end up mistaking being busy for being effective, and your focus just gets shattered into a million little pieces, too small to ever really matter.
And just look at the results when this is applied in the real world. Instagram had only 13 employees when it sold for $1 billion. How? Because they said no to video, no to messaging, no to basically everything except making photo sharing simple and beautiful. In-N-Out has the highest revenue per store in fast food because for over 70 years they've said no to breakfast, no to salads, no to chicken. It all comes down to a super simple filter. If it is not a hell yes, it has to be a firm no.
Okay, so you've said no to all the distractions and you've figured out your one great thing. Now you have to protect the time to actually do it. And that means you have to understand that when you work matters just as much as what you work on. The most effective people don't just manage their time, they manage their energy by syncing up their most important work with their brain's natural peak performance windows.
And this is where it gets kind of crazy. The sheer scale of the difference here is mind-blowing.
Research on our natural body rhythms, our ultradian rhythms, found a 500% productivity gap between our best hour and our worst hour. 500%. We're talking about the same person, same skills, same task. Most people just randomly sprinkle their important work throughout the day, which is basically the equivalent of trying to sprint through quicksand.
And this isn't some new idea. The masters have always known this. Maya Angelou, Stephen King, Haruki Murakami, they didn't just have routines. They discovered their unique biological prime time and they defended it viciously. They got it. They understood that 2 hours of focused work in that peak window is worth 8 hours of distracted, mushy work later on.
So how do you find yours? It's really simple. For 1 week, just observe. Don't change anything, just rate your energy every couple of hours. Once you find that consistent 2 to 3 hour peak, the final step is the most important one. You have to treat that time like it's a medical emergency. It is completely untouchable. That window is when you do the one thing that truly moves the needle. Everything else has to wait.
And that brings us to the final and by far the most radical rule. This is the one that really breaks most people's brains. To achieve world-class excellence in one area, you absolutely must give yourself permission to be actively, unapologetically terrible at things that do not matter. This isn't about being lazy. It's about strategic incompetence. You see, society teaches us to be well-rounded, to be a B+ student at life. But the market doesn't reward well-rounded. The market rewards spikes. It rewards being an A+ player at one critical thing. General competence makes you reliable, sure, but it also makes you easily replaceable. Selective excellence makes you unstoppable. This is one of my all-time favorite examples. Gary Halbert was arguably the greatest copywriter of his generation, making millions and millions from sales letters. He literally could not turn on a computer. He handwrote everything. And while all the other writers were busy learning software, he was deepening his mastery of human psychology. His incompetence was a strategic choice that protected his excellence. Here's a great way to think about it. Imagine you have 100 units of excellence to spend in your lifetime. You can sprinkle them around and be pretty good at a lot of things, or you can concentrate 80 of them on one skill and become legendary. And the data totally backs this up. Research from the London School of Economics found that selective perfectionists, people who are obsessive about one thing while letting other stuff slide, like typos in their emails or a messy room, they outperform generalists by a staggering 300%. So, what does all this add up to? It's a fundamental shift in how you see your own potential. Excellence, it turns out, is a zero-sum game. You simply cannot be well-rounded and unstoppable at the same time. It's about abandoning that whole pursuit of being well-rounded and instead embracing the power of having a sharp edge. And this right here, this visual says it all, doesn't it? A circle is stable, it's well-rounded, but it has no cutting edge. It can't pierce through resistance. A blade, on the other hand, is useless almost everywhere, except for its one sharp edge. But at that one point, it is unstoppable. The most effective version of you is not a circle, it's a blade.
So, I'm going to leave you with this question. To become truly exceptional at the one thing that really matters, what are you going to give yourself permission to be terrible at? What admin, what distractions, what good opportunities will you intentionally fail at so that you can become unstoppable?